Hey, good morning. Happy Monday. Matt Bergen here with Infinitas Realty. So doing my weekly video cast podcast, conversation, education, answering of questions, topics that people send to me that they'd like me to talk about. I had this little thing. So this week, this comes from, I've gotten a lot of questions. Hey, interest rates are up. We want to buy, but interest rates are high. Should we wait till they come back down? Should we buy now? What should we do? What's the impact? And I want to go into more just here's what I think. So I've broken this down. So I've got some graphic aids, if you will, and some charts and some price scenarios and cost analysis because I'm kind of nerdy like that. But for the sake of this conversation, we're going to compare what it was like buying a house, say early last year when the market was pretty hot and things were kind of crazy and all the leverage was on the seller side versus buying a house today and essentially closing on it next month. So to back this up, and you can research this to whatever extent you would like, but high level stuff. All right. So interest rates were at historic lows, 3, 4, 5 years ago. The economy started to turn. Inflation took hold, negatively impacted the economy, negatively impacted interest rates for buyers. We saw interest rates skyrocket, might not be the best term, but they went up considerably. I know people that have sub 2.5% interest rates, like 2.25%. Highest I saw Q4 of last year, 2022, was like I saw 7.5%, which again, historically is low. But if we just look over the course of the last 5 years, that is objectively higher. Now, economists and the political pundits and all the super smart people out there, they are projecting interest rates to continue to come back down. We've seen them decline. They're projecting a continued decline. So what we're going to do is we're going to jump in our DeLorean. We're going to go back in time. We're going to buy this house early last year, market crazy, seller leverage, and then we're going to go to today and we're going to close on the same property next month and just compare the two. So we're going to start off. Now, today, this property is listed at $449,000. It's 4-bedroom, 2.5 bath, colonial, nice neighborhood, over an acre of land, close to Pax River, good neighborhood, checks all the boxes, highly desirable home. Today, in today's market, list price $449. In the previous market, the seller leverage market, we're going to have a sales price of $499. And I'm being conservative with that if we're being honest, because I don't want it to seem like I'm fudging numbers to make it seem like you should buy right now. The data will speak for itself. But very likely scenario with this same property in the previous, I'm going to keep saying seller leverage market because the sellers had all the leverage. High demand, high demand, low inventory. You can put two and two together. So this could have been a lot worse for the buyers, monetarily speaking, at $499. Something that was very, very common. So we see like a $499 list price, and a buyer would make an offer at $525, which like, oh wow, 25 grand above list. That's notable, but it probably won't appraise for that much because appraisers are still going to use objective methodology in their appraisal / evaluation. But then buyers would add into the body of their offer an addenda or an amendment to their offer that read something like this. The parties agree that in the event the appraised value is less than that of the contractual sales price, the buyer at buyer expense will make up the difference not to exceed $25,000. So they would offer $525. If the appraised value was $500, they would come out of pocket that difference. So that's an additional $25,000 out of pocket on top of their normal closing costs. So when I talk to buyers today, and a lot of them say, interest rates are too high. Some of the conversations I have with them is, do you have $50,000 liquid that you would apply to the purchase of a home? If the answer is no, I don't have that money. Yes, interest rates were lower before, but you didn't have the means to actually buy a house. homes were more affordable in terms of the interest rate, the carrying cost, right? Because interest rate impacts carrying cost, your monthly mortgage payment. But the price of procurement, your out of pocket cost to close, how much liquid cash it would cost you to buy this house was so high, you could not purchase a home. And I don't care if the interest rate was 1%. So that's just real talk. So before, yes, interest rates were lower, but it was a market that many people couldn't afford a house. They could afford the carrying cost, but they could not afford the upfront cost of procurement. Hope that makes sense. And that's not, and that's objectively like, dude, not everybody has 50 plus thousand bucks in an account that they're just going to throw at the purchase of a house. That's normal. So, but let's just say $499. Let me adjust this to 2022 since we're going back in time. That's why. All right. We'll just throw that in there. All right. So same, it's going to be the same tax amount between buyer A and buyer B. Interest rate. So went back, national average, 3.22%. Boom. That's what it was before, 3.22%. One thing to take into consideration, when you were buying a house 2, 3, 4 years ago, basically seller concessions or closing help to the buyer was non-existent. There was multiple offers. That is something that would dilute the strength of your offer and you would not be accepted. So many buyers that actively were trying to buy homes but needed some seller concessions or closing help to lower their out-of-pocket cost to close, they would make, 15 offers, and they would get beat out every time because their offer required seller concessions. So no seller concessions back then. Because of the purchase price, because of the higher price of procurement, now we're talking 525, 500, 525. We've gone up so much. A lot of buyers had to go by way of like an FHA. So I needed a lower down payment to keep that cash because my cash to close was so high. So FHA offers 3.5% down. That's other than, so USDA is 0% and VA is 0%. FHA minimum down payment of 3.5%. And then conventional, if it's your primary residence, is 5%. So this buyer needed to decrease that down payment so as to keep enough cash to actually be able to afford the purchase of the house. So everything being the same, we'll look over for this house before 2022, you would need approximately $36,000, $36,093.21 would be your out-of-pocket cash to close. That is the amount that you would be wiring the title company the day before settlement, so they had funds in escrow to purchase this house. That again is without that $25,000. Say you offer $25,000 and add the addenda that you'll make up the difference if the appraised value is less than that of contractual sales price. So this could have theoretically gone up to $60,000. Your carrying cost or your monthly mortgage payment is $2,715.38 estimated. All right. So this is buying a house back a year ago. Now we're going to buy the same house today. Today, the list price on homes, the price with which homes are being sold for, has come down notably. And that's driven by the market. List prices today are more reflective of the actual value of the home, as opposed to this inflated value that existed 2, 3, 4 years ago, whereas everybody was paying over list, the housing market was going crazy, and the sellers had all the leverage. So just right off the bat, we're saving $50,000 on price of procurement, objectively. Closing next month. Interest rate, let's calculate, make sure that's reflective. That's gone up to 6%. There are some programs where you can get below 6%. VA, if you're VA eligible, you can see a lot of 5.75s to 5.85. So you could get below 6%, but let's be reasonable. So 6%. But in today's market, because the sellers don't have all the leverage, because it's not just crazy. A lot of buyers are getting seller concessions. A lot. I'd say, whereas less than 5% of homes that that I closed in 2019, 20, 21, 22, less than 5 had seller concessions. I'd say over 75% in today's market. So that helps. That's where the seller takes a portion of their proceeds and gives it to you, the buyer, to lessen your out-of-pocket cost to close. So now, because our price of procurement is lower and we're getting seller concessions, we can go 5% down against our mortgage as opposed to 3.5%. So our mortgage is slightly lower. Therefore, our carrying cost or mortgage payment is lower. So in this realm, we can go conventional 5% down, 5% because it is our principal residence. We're talking about you're buying a house to live in. This is not investment property. Whole different conversation. 30-year note, just like the last one. All right. So estimated cash needed to close. Now it's $26,564. And actually needed at settlement, $21,923. I didn't put earnest monies deposits in there. I could have. Things would have looked even crazier. Today, like 1% or even in many cases, like $1,000 earnest money deposit is deemed acceptable. Whereas before it was closer to 1% or more just to show that you had cash and you would put it up in earnest money. So let's call it 22 grand to close today. And your monthly mortgage payment is $3,141.51. So $22,000 and we'll call it $3,100. $22,000 to close, $3,100 a month. A year ago, $36,000 to close, $2,700 a month. So way more cash to close, but the mortgage payment was about $400 less. Now wait. So when you're buying a house, this is important to know, and this is a cliche term that I hear a lot, but I like it, so I use it. When you're buying a house, think about it this way. You marry the purchase price, but you date the rate. You cannot go back and change the purchase price, right? That's in stone. Your price of procurement, your price of sale, your purchase price, it is what it is. So you're married to the purchase price, but the interest rate you date. When that interest rate comes down, you can do what's called a refinance. Many people are familiar with refinancing. What will be impacted by that? That monthly mortgage payment. So we got this house for $50,000 less. We had to bring considerably less cash to the settlement table. And say in a year, interest rates come down to 5%. Well, that right there takes us to $2,873. So comparing the two, we're talking 27 in the old market, 28 in this. So it's $100 more, but you got the property for $50,000 less dollars, and your cash to close, we'll say, was $10,000 less dollars. So you saved $50,000 in your price of procurement, and your out-of-pocket expense was $10,000 less dollars. And the impact of that after the refinance is $100 a month. I'm not saying like go buy. That's really a decision that's up to you. If the numbers still don't make sense, fine, because you're hyper focused on interest rate. I can understand that. But I just want to give you like the objective data, comparing the two paths and let you make up your mind. Because if you bought a house today and closed next month on St. Patrick's Day, March 17th, one of three things is going to happen. The interest rate is going to go up. Let's say you close at 6%. Let's say, even though there's no projections of interest rate increases, let's say it goes up. What are you going to say? Man, I'm sure glad I locked in at 6 before it went to 7 or 8. Option 2, interest rates stay exactly the same and there's no refi. Well, you're pre-approved. You can't get a loan without being pre-approved for the carrying cost. You know that you your price of procurement was $50,000 less. You know that your out of pocket cash to close was actually $15,000 less. And that's a win scenario. Or option 3, interest rates go down. Now you just saved hundreds of dollars on your mortgage, your monthly mortgage payment. You still got the property for $50,000 less dollars. You still brought what, $15,000 less to the table. You kept that in your pocket for whatever you choose to use it for. And that's like a huge win. So it's a win-win-win. If they go up, you're glad you locked. If they don't change, you're still glad that you saved a considerable amount of money on the upfront procurement. Or if interest rates go down, you're super glad because you bought the house at a lower price, spent less cash, and now because you date the rate, you can refinance down and make the home even more affordable. So you pick the scenario. I'm curious if you put in the comments what you think. If you've watched this 16-minute mark. So if you watched all 16 minutes of this, you see the two, what are your thoughts? Or do you have additional questions? Happy to answer them. Again, at the end of the day, I don't care if you buy a house. I care how you buy a house. But if you want to wait. I'm not trying to force anybody to do anything. But I want your decision to be based on factual data and all the data. We get too focused on interest rate or too focused on sales prices or too focused on anything. Make your decision be based off all the data. And then if you have any additional questions, give me a shout. So I hope you found this to be informative. Looking for more ideas to speak to. And I think the next one, if I remember correctly, I don't remember. It'll be a surprise, but I've got like 6 or 7, and I have to see what are the most requested. But yeah, thank you for watching. Kept below 20 minutes. If you have questions, reach out. If you are looking to buy, looking to sell, give me a call. Happy to have that conversation. Have an awesome week. Excuse me. Have an awesome week.